Picture this. You're one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Your agent calls with news that Quentin Tarantino wants you for his next film. This should be the call that changes everything. Instead, it becomes the call that ends everything. Because in Tarantino's world, there's no second take on betrayal. Quentin Tarantino doesn't just make movies. He builds cinematic empires where loyalty is currency and creative control is non-negotiable. Cross him once, and you're not just out of the picture. You're erased from the entire franchise. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 6 actors who learned this lesson the hard way. These aren't just casting disputes. These are Hollywood exiles, permanent bans from one of cinema's most exclusive clubs. And here's the kicker. Some of these feuds are still burning 30 years later. Before we dive into Hollywood's most explosive director feuds, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you love vintage Hollywood drama. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Let's start with the most violent exit in Tarantino history, Lawrence Tierney. The year was 1992. Reservoir Dogs was supposed to be Tierney's comeback, a chance for the noir legend to reclaim his throne. Instead, it became his final curtain call with Tarantino, and the reason will shock you. Tierney wasn't just difficult on set, he was a human wrecking ball. Picture a 73-year-old actor cast as the crime boss Joe Cabot, who should have been the steady veteran presence. Instead, he turned every shooting day into a battlefield. Crew members describe scenes where Tierney would forget his lines, then explode at anyone who tried to help him. He'd argue about blocking, question Tarantino's direction, and create an atmosphere so toxic that other actors started dreading their scenes with him. The breaking point came during a heated confrontation over a simple scene setup. Tierney didn't just disagree with 29-year-old Tarantino, he went nuclear. Michael Madsen, who played Mr. Blonde, later revealed that Tierney's behavior was so unpredictable that the entire cast would hold their breath when he arrived on set. One day, you'd get the professional. The next day, you'd get the tornado. Tarantino tried to manage it at first. After all, he'd written Joe Cabot specifically for Tierney. This was supposed to be an homage to the tough guy actors of old Hollywood. But when your homage starts destroying your debut film from the inside, you have to make a choice. Tarantino made his. After Reservoir Dogs wrapped, Tierney's name disappeared from Tarantino's Rolodex forever. No cameos in Pulp Fiction, no small parts in Jackie Brown, nothing. What makes this ban even more brutal? When Reservoir Dogs became a cult phenomenon and launched Tarantino's career, he never once mentioned Tierney in interviews about the film's success. It was as if the actor had been digitally removed from Tarantino's memory. In Hollywood, being forgotten is worse than being hated, and Tierney experienced both. But Tierney's explosive exit was just the beginning. The next actor on our list had something Tierney didn't: global stardom, box office power, and a direct line to Hollywood's elite. Yet none of it could save George Clooney from Tarantino's permanent blacklist. George Clooney. The name alone opens doors in Hollywood, but one door that remains permanently locked? Quentin Tarantino's casting office. Their collaboration on From Dusk Till Dawn should have been the start of something legendary. Instead, it became a masterclass in how to burn a bridge without ever lighting a match. Here's what happened. In 1996, Clooney was transitioning from television's ER to film stardom. From Dusk Till Dawn, which Tarantino wrote and co-starred in, gave him that shot. The vampire crime thriller became a cult hit, launching Clooney's movie career. You'd think there'd be mutual respect, maybe even friendship. You'd be wrong. Fast forward to 2022. Tarantino drops a bombshell in an interview. Quote, "George Clooney is not a movie star," unquote. But he didn't stop there. He challenged anyone to name a single Clooney film since the millennium that truly mattered. This wasn't criticism. This was character assassination. Clooney's response? Pure ice. He didn't rant or rave. He simply said he was irritated and reminded the world that Ocean's 11, Syriana, and Michael Clayton existed. Then came the knockout punch. Quote, "All right, dude, F off," unquote. When George Clooney, Mr. Diplomacy himself, tells you to F off publicly, you know you've crossed a line. But here's the fascinating part. Tarantino's attack reveals something deeper about his philosophy. To him, a movie star disappears into roles. Clooney, in Tarantino's view, brings George Clooney to every part. He's handsome, charming, bankable, but never dangerous, never raw, never the kind of actor who belongs in Tarantino's blood-soaked universe. The aftermath? Total exile. While actors like Brad Pitt and Samuel L. Jackson became Tarantino regulars, appearing in multiple films across decades, Clooney never got a second call. Not for Inglourious Basterds, where his charm could have played against type as a Nazi officer. Not for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, despite being perfect for 1960s Hollywood. Nothing. Think about that. One of Hollywood's most powerful actors, an Oscar winner, a director in his own right, completely shut out from one of cinema's most celebrated directors. And the silence between them is deafening. They don't appear at the same events. They don't mention each other in interviews unless pressed. It's a Cold War that's lasted nearly 2 decades. But if Clooney's exile was a Cold War, what happened next between Tarantino and another legendary director was World War III. And this time, the battle lines were drawn over something far more serious than acting ability. Spike Lee versus Quentin Tarantino. This isn't just a feud, it's a cultural collision that shook Hollywood to its core. Two auteurs, both revolutionaries in their own right, locked in a battle over who gets to tell what stories and how they tell them. The first shot was fired in 1997 when Jackie Brown hit theaters. Spike Lee didn't just critique the film, he went straight for Tarantino's jugular, calling out his liberal use of the N-word. Lee's exact words, quote, "Quentin is infatuated with the word. What does he want to be made an honorary black man?" Unquote. This wasn't about one film. This was about Tarantino's entire approach to dialogue and authenticity. Tarantino's response was volcanic. Quote, "I don't think Spike Lee could direct a music video. He needs to shut the F up," unquote. But the real atom bomb came later when he said, quote, "I think his problem is that I'm making the black movies he wishes he could make," unquote. In the history of Hollywood feuds, few statements have been more inflammatory. Then came Django Unchained in 2012. Lee condemned it without even watching it, calling it, quote, "disrespectful to my ancestors," unquote. He refused to see the film that would go on to win an Oscar and become one of the highest-grossing Westerns ever made. His boycott wasn't just personal, it was philosophical. Here's what makes this feud so explosive. Both directors changed cinema. Lee with Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X, Tarantino with Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill. Both tackle race in their films. Both consider themselves truth-tellers. But they're telling different truths to different audiences, and neither will budge an inch. The collateral damage? Immense. Actors had to choose sides. Film festivals had to schedule carefully to avoid both directors being in the same city. Award shows became minefields. Samuel L. Jackson, who's worked with both, has had to navigate interviews like a diplomat avoiding international incidents. What's remarkable is the permanence of this split. In an industry built on fake reconciliations and publicity-friendly forgiveness, Lee and Tarantino remain committed to their conflict. No staged handshakes, no joint statements about putting the past behind them, just two titans who will go to their graves without speaking to each other. But wait, there's more drama brewing. Because while Lee and Tarantino's feud played out in headlines, another conflict was quietly destroying a friendship that helped launch Tarantino's entire career. Steve Buscemi. The name might surprise you. After all, his Mr. Pink in Reservoir Dogs delivered one of cinema's most memorable rants about tipping. That opening diner scene? Iconic. Buscemi's rapid-fire delivery? Legendary. So why did one of Tarantino's original collaborators never return to the universe he helped create? The answer might be hiding in plain sight, right there in that famous scene. Quote, "I don't tip because society says I have to," unquote, Buscemi's character argues. But according to multiple crew members, this wasn't just acting. Reports suggest Buscemi voiced similar views off-camera during filming. And in Tarantino's world, that's not just a philosophical difference. It's a character flaw. Here's where it gets interesting. A film assistant who worked on multiple Tarantino sets recounted a jaw-dropping comment. Years after Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino allegedly joked that if Buscemi wanted back in one of his films, he'd have to play a waiter. The joke? He wasn't joking. That role never materialized. Consider the evidence. Michael Madsen, who played Mr. White, appeared in Kill Bill, The Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tim Roth, he showed up in Pulp Fiction, 4 Rooms, and The Hateful Eight. Even Harvey Keitel got multiple callbacks. But Buscemi? Radio silence. When asked why Buscemi wasn't brought back for Pulp Fiction, where a quirky supporting role seemed tailor-made for him, Tarantino offered this ice-cold response. Quote, "Sometimes people get one shot. That's the story," unquote. For a director who treats his films like family reunions, constantly bringing back his favorite actors, that statement is a death sentence. Buscemi himself has remained frustratingly diplomatic. Quote, "I haven't heard from Quentin in a long time, but I wish him well," unquote, he once said. That's Hollywood speak for, "We're never working together again." He went on to stellar performances in Fargo, Boardwalk Empire, and dozens of other projects. But the Tarantino door? Permanently closed. What makes this exile particularly cruel is its pettiness. If the rumors are true, Buscemi was banished from an entire cinematic universe over a disagreement about tipping. Not creative differences. Not on-set blow-ups. Tipping. In Tarantino's world, every detail matters, even the ones that happen after the cameras stop rolling. Speaking of details that matter, our next story involves an actor who almost became the most iconic villain in Tarantino's filmography. Instead, he became another casualty of the director's uncompromising vision. Warren Beatty as Bill. Just let that sink in. The Hollywood icon who defined cool for an entire generation was Tarantino's first choice to play the title character in Kill Bill. This wasn't just casting, this was destiny. Tarantino wrote every word of Bill's philosophical monologues with Beatty's voice in mind. The character's elegant menace, his tragic gravitas, all of it was tailored specifically for Warren Beatty. They met, they talked, they mapped out the character together. Beatty was interested, intrigued even. For an actor who hadn't had a defining role in years, this was a golden opportunity. A Tarantino villain could reshape his entire legacy. But then Beatty made a fatal mistake. He started giving notes. See, Warren Beatty isn't just an actor, he's a director, a producer, a Hollywood power player who's been calling shots since the 1960s. When he read Tarantino's script, he didn't just see his character. He saw opportunities for improvement, different angles, tonal adjustments, dialogue tweaks. To Beatty, this was collaboration. To Tarantino, it was insurrection. David Carradine, who ultimately inherited the role, later revealed the behind-the-scenes tension. Quote, "Warren was trying to direct the director, and Quentin doesn't play that," unquote. That's the understatement of the century. Tarantino doesn't just resist input, he treats it like a personal attack. The breaking point came quickly. One day, Beatty was Bill. The next day, he wasn't. No public announcement, no press release, just a quiet phone call and a role reassigned to Carradine. When asked about the casting change years later, Tarantino offered this revealing statement, quote, "It wasn't going to work. I needed someone who understood it wasn't their story," unquote. Think about what that means. Warren Beatty, who directed Reds, who produced Bonnie and Clyde, who revolutionized Hollywood in the 70s, was essentially told to sit down and say the lines as written. For Beatty, who built his career on creative control, this was unacceptable. For Tarantino, anything else was unthinkable. The aftermath was total separation. They've never worked together since, never been photographed together, never even acknowledged each other in interviews. In an industry that thrives on networking and second chances, their split is absolute. Carradine would later say that after Beatty left, Tarantino seemed energized, like a weight had been lifted. That weight was compromise, something Tarantino refuses to carry. But here's the twist ending to our story. While all these actors were banished from Tarantino's kingdom, there's one more name that might surprise you. An actor whose relationship with Tarantino is so complicated that even defining it as a feud seems insufficient. Let me be clear about something. Contrary to some rumors, Bruce Willis and Tarantino didn't have a feud, but their relationship reveals something crucial about how Tarantino operates. Willis was instrumental in getting Pulp Fiction made. He was already a massive star who could have demanded script changes, billing preferences, or creative input. Instead, he did something that earned Tarantino's respect. He submitted to the vision. When Willis first read Pulp Fiction, he wanted to play Vincent, the role that went to John Travolta. Then he asked about Jules, which was already promised to Samuel L. Jackson. A lesser director might have caved to the star power. Tarantino held firm. He told Willis to consider Butch, the boxer. Willis read it again and delivered one of cinema's great lines. Quote, "The shortest sentence in the Bible is, 'Jesus wept.' The shortest sentence in Hollywood is, 'I'm in,'" unquote. That's the difference. Willis understood the assignment. He came to serve the story, not shape it. While he never appeared in another Tarantino film after Pulp Fiction, it wasn't due to conflict. It was simply that their paths didn't cross again in the right way. When Willis retired from acting due to his aphasia diagnosis, Tarantino was one of the first to celebrate his legacy, calling him an actor who took risks with auteurs when he didn't need to. This contrast illuminates everything. Actors who submit to Tarantino's vision become legends in his films. Those who challenge it become exiles. There's no middle ground, no negotiation, no compromise. You're either in the Church of Tarantino following his scripture word for word, or you're excommunicated forever. Think about what this means for cinema. Tarantino has created some of the most memorable characters in film history. But how many legendary performances have we lost because an actor dared to have an opinion? How many classic collaborations died before they could be born? Warren Beatty's Bill might have been transcendent. George Clooney in Inglourious Basterds could have been revolutionary. We'll never know. And that's the price of genius without compromise. Tarantino's films are singular visions, uncorrupted by studio notes or actor input. But they're also monuments to his absolutism. Every frame is his. Every word is his. Every choice is his. And if you don't like it, you're not just out of the movie. You're out of his universe entirely. The actors we've discussed today aren't just names on a blacklist. They're reminders that in Tarantino's Hollywood, there's only room for one vision, one voice, one God behind the camera. And if you dare to challenge that divinity, even once, your name gets erased from the book of Tarantino forever. These feuds aren't just about movies. They're about power, control, and the price of artistic purity. Tarantino has made 10 films, each one a testament to his uncompromising vision. But for every masterpiece he's created, there's a relationship he's destroyed, a bridge he's burned, a talent he's banished. As Tarantino approaches what he claims will be his final film, one question remains. Will any of these exiled actors get a redemption arc? Will Tarantino extend an olive branch to Clooney, make peace with Spike Lee, or give Buscemi that waiter role he joked about? Don't count on it. In Tarantino's world, feuds don't fade. They become legend. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's most explosive feuds, hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from Tinseltown's Golden Vaults. Comment below, which of these feuds shocked you the most? And who do you think should have swallowed their pride and made peace? Until next time, this is your window into vintage Hollywood, where the drama behind the camera is just as captivating as what ends up on screen.